that is live right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to Dirtying the Frame. I am here with Asaad. Say hello, Asaad.
I got a light.
He's got a light. We're so excited. Today we are going to do a little bit different take. Today we're going to do what we're calling our classics episode. So we're going to watch a classic film that we used to love, rewatch it, and decide if we think that it belongs on our list of like, this is a classic, or are we just remembering the nostalgia from when we watched it the first time. So
and it might not even be used to love. I'm not sure I used to love this particular one.
Well, I used to love this particular one. And today we are talking about The Wolf of Wall Street. Jordan, look at that punum. Jordan Belfort just looking like a whole snack.
You look like him.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hollywood, hire me. You can be Leo's sister. Hello, how are you, Asaad? Are you excited to be here? I'm excited to be here.
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know that I kind of hate movies that are bro movies. You know, if it feels like a bro did them. Wolf of Wall Street feels like a couple bros did this fucking movie, so I didn't like it initially. But I'm excited to talk about it, man.
We're about to find out if you liked it this time.
Yes. How are you doing? Most importantly.
Someone just told me I look like one of the most handsome men in the world, so,
yes.
I'm fine.
How have you liked some of the misogynistic comments since you've switched over to tank tops in our videos?
I like the positive ones. So if everyone could just say nice things instead of writing negative things, then that would be great.
I often find I like comments like getting catcalled from people, but only if they're good looking.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, when I search you on Instagram, if you come up and you're a model, then I'm here for it.
Hey, everybody that follows DTF, thank you for the people that have become YouTube members, our swimmers, our Patreon members as well. If you haven't, please consider you get all these videos 30 days, even more days in advance sometimes, and exclusive content that doesn't get to our YouTube. And also, me and Sarah, I should say Sarah and I, because I went to community college, are now on audio. I know we did the video thing first, but yeah, check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever the hell else you listen to.
Exactly. Please check us out. If you're tired of watching, just listen to us in your car.
Facts.
Or turn the volume all the way down and leave us a good review. You don't even have to listen. How do we feel about that idea?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Asaad, we are talking about Wolf of Wall Street today. This movie came out in 2013. And you know what I said when I heard that? I was like, oh, that's the year I graduated high school. That's not true. I was off by about 10 years.
Wait.
I'm 12 years old.
Did you go to high school?
I was homeschooled, so technically I did not.
Okay. All right. But when would you have graduated?
I think we should just leave that for people's imaginations.
Okay. Sarah is 50.
100.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start off by just recapping this film. If you haven't seen this movie yet, I'm surprised, but we will be fully spoiling it and just kind of talking about it, deciding whether or not we liked it upon rewatch. So I'm going to give you a quick recap of the story. Spoilers coming. After being fired from his stock market job on Wall Street, Jordan Belfort starts a company with Jonah Hill. They quickly become wildly successful and just as quickly fall into a life of debauchery until the FBI investigates their shady practices, which leads to the fall of his empire, and Jordan ultimately loses everything and ends up going to prison.
Otherwise known as the prequel to Dumb Money.
This is smart money.
This is smart money, yeah.
Very well-dressed money. So before we begin, a little personal anecdote about where I saw this movie. 2014, so I was still a young lady, and or 13. I was still a young lady, and I went and saw this over a holiday break with my dad.
Not a good move.
Not great. I was immediately uncomfortable. Oh my God. And then I sat there for 3 more hours. This is a long movie. It doesn't get better.
Sarah, I would like to know, and maybe we should bring your dad on the pod sometime. Hey, Rick.
God.
I would like to know who felt more uncomfortable in that scenario.
I gotta say it was me.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
I feel like, my dad's so like hippy-dippy and probably just like, I don't know. Who knows? I know I was wildly uncomfortable. There was like two men and a woman, and they were all doing things to each other at the same time, and I was sitting next to my father.
Rick, well, whose idea was it?
It was mine. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, you're more uncomfortable for sure.
I hadn't seen it.
Yeah,
I hadn't seen it, so we were like, oh, there's this new big blockbuster Scorsese film out in the theaters. Let's go watch it. And then I just like slid further and further down into the seat. But I do, despite that, remember really liking this film. And you said you didn't like it when you watched it the first time. Is that correct?
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know what the hoopla was about. But keep in mind, I think in the last 10 years, I've become a dramatically better film watcher, not a cinephile, but I appreciate different things. When you first have a thing that you like, you have bad taste naturally. And then when you get a little bit better taste, you become a snob. And then when you get a little bit better taste, you realize you know nothing, and so you're just a little bit more open to everything. Right now, I'm a little bit more open to all different styles of filmmaking and try to find something good about the film first and try to find something I appreciate in it. So, but yeah, when I first saw this film, I grew up in Utah with a lot of bros. And so if anything movie reminds me of a bunch of bros making movies, this was bros making movies for sure.
You're like, I've lived this my last 8 years.
Yeah.
I don't need to watch it on television. Okay, should we do the thing where we do the one word?
Let's do it. Yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Problematic.
Problematic.
Wait, what was your word?
Fun.
Oh, you had fun in this.
I did.
Oh, so you hate small people too?
Whoa. No. I really had a great time in this movie. I thought it was super fun, debaucherous, funny, high-paced, lots of energy, which are all just right up my alley. So you thought it was problematic.
I mean, it is. I can't watch this movie without thinking about it could have been made 5 years later. Usually movies like this, you would have to wait like 20 years to see if it could have been made. This was almost like, I felt like it almost hit the cusp of woke. Does that make sense? Like this barely got in under that line. And I think maybe like 2 or 3 years later, it couldn't have been made. The only thing that covers this up is that like you get high quality people participating in it, which is Scorsese directing, DiCaprio leading, But yeah, I think not to be the woke warrior here, but this movie, when I was watching, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe this got made.
Oh, I was just talking about that recently, like rewatching episodes of like Friends and Gilmore Girls, like, woo, man, it is tough.
Yeah.
Tough rewatching those. They get away with a lot of stuff that you would never be able to say now. But
I got a question for you.
Let's hear it.
Because in the second act of this movie, they break down 3 different types of prostitutes. What kind of prostitute do you think I am? The low level, middle, or high?
Very low.
Okay, let's move on.
Speaking from experience, very low.
Let's move on. Let's just cut that segment out. Asshole.
I'm the editor. I will not be cutting it out. Okay, so let's start with the beginning of the movie, which was we've got the Leonardo DiCaprio. This cast is so stacked, which, it's like Matthew McConaughey, Margot Robbie, Jonah Hill, Leo. Like, it's so good. Rob Reiner. There's so many actors in this film who are just like killing it. And I think that's another thing, like what you were saying. You've got such great talent working on it that it makes it feel less offensive because they're acting so well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you can be offensive. I mean, you can't be, but you can be offensive if you have extreme talent working on it.
And boy, did they.
Yeah, like if this is Keanu Reeves in Wolf of Wall Street, might have been a problem.
Are you saying he's not a good actor?
I need a gun.
Oh my gosh, you guys, go rewatch our what's the name of that movie?
John Wick.
John Wick 4 recap. That was, I really thought I'd never seen one of them, and I was like, what is wrong? Is he okay?
Sarah, I'm gonna kill them all.
I'm gonna get revenge. Are you gonna go to the bathroom first? Are you good?
John, is that a question or a statement? We're really confused.
Oh my
Sidebar, we love John Wick.
Love John Wick. That was a really good movie. It was really fun. But this movie, I think, also was really fun in a different way. The way that this movie starts is so good to me and so interesting. So I didn't remember because I haven't seen it in full since I'd watched it with my dad in 2013. But I love the way at the very beginning. So if you'll remember, Jordan's kind of narrating it, but it sounds like they're showing things. Oh, and you just hear his voice, and it sounds almost like, to me, I thought, oh, it sounds like he's dictating like his book, like he's writing a memoir and he's dictating it to someone else to type up or something, or like watching the movie or whatever. So it's got his like Ferrari or whatever kind of fast car he drove that was like racing down the highway, and he's like, no, my car wasn't red, it was white, and then it snaps and the car changes color. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because Martin Scorsese made a cool decision in that while making this film. Most of this movie is based off memoirs by Jordan Belfort, and he is said to like be on 22 different drugs at one time. He went to prison for fraud. Not the most trustworthy guy in the world. So I think Martin Scorsese, in depicting this story, kept it that way. Where it's like everything's kind of a little fuzzy. There's no concrete facts in it because we're going off of the narrator being Jordan Belfort, you know? So if you read his memoir about these times, you'd be like, that's probably bullshit, or that's probably inaccurate. Martin Scorsese decided to keep it in the movie. He's like, well, let's just make these errors here and then change them later. And he starts off the movie like that. I dig that.
I love that, though. That's so interesting that you said that. I just thought it was, like, cool and kitschy. But how interesting if, like, I don't know, I might be putting words in Scorsese's brain here, but wouldn't it be cool if he was like, oh, this guy's stories don't match up, so, like, let's show that? Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Thank you for saying it better than me. But it's cool, right? Because in movies, you usually have to be so definitive, right? Like, no, it has to be this, but it takes someone that's a giant like Scorsese to make that decision.
Right, and this is kind of before, I believe, this is before, like, the unreliable narrator thing became very popular with Gone Girl.
Yeah.
So, like, this has just hints of that without being a totally unreliable narrator throughout the whole thing.
Yes.
That's really interesting. I kind of just discovered that with you. That's really cool.
Yep.
So we start off with that. And then you were talking about how he's on like 22 different drugs at any given time.
Yes.
Sidebar, my coworker from one of my many jobs, she used to work for Jordan Belfort. Like,
no shit.
Recently. Isn't that interesting? I've got to get some dirt. I've got to ask for some dirt on him, and she probably won't tell me. She's very, like, lovely and kind. But believe you me, maybe I'll give her a glass of wine and get her to start gossiping. I thought it was so funny, and it's around the beginning, too. He just lists all these cocktails of, like, drugs that he's taking, and he's like, yeah, this is just what I need to be normal. He's like, I take 4 Adderall. You know, it's like all this mix of uppers and downers. Like, maybe if you just didn't do any of them, you would be normal.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I got to like get up to get down, and then like this evens me out. And he's just saying it so casually, like it's just the norm.
Yeah.
I think that was such a fun kind of like other aspect to this movie that really worked for me as well.
And kids, we're joking around about it, but be careful with Adderall. Don't use it. Don't use it to get up for pods with Sarah or when you're performing.
Are you on Adderall right now? You sound like you're on marijuana or something, like on heroin. You're like, don't use it when you're...
I'm crashing, man. Stall me out. I'm
Someone
crashing.
Get him some Adderall. We do not condone drug use that is illegal on this podcast.
You sounded like you were on drugs doing that disclaimer. We don't fucking, man, don't get smacked. I
wasn't sure if we did or not, you know?
Can I tell you what I didn't like about this movie right off the bat?
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
Martin Scorsese not in it.
What'd you say?
Martin Scorsese wasn't in it. Back to you.
Oh, my God. If you'll remember from our Killers of the Flower Moon podcast, Martin Scorsese, we had to fire Marty. We had to fire him because he put himself in that movie in the worst way.
Yes.
Luckily, he did not do that in this one. Matthew McConaughey.
That's all. That's all we need.
Good
that's
night,
the review
everyone.
of our movie. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Wolf of Wall Street, because Matthew McConaughey's in the first 10 minutes and walks the fuck away with this movie.
He walks out, and we never see him again, and we never forgot about him in this role. Like, he just comes out fully, like, just off his role at a Dallas Buyers Club, like, just like 80 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
Looking like somebody who probably does a fair amount of cocaine.
Yes.
Great job. And I was listening, let's be honest, to his book Green Lights, and he talks about this movie and how, like, you know, he's famously helping Jordan Belfort, like, who's wide-eyed and just landed on Wall Street, and they go to dinner or to lunch, and he's just like blowing lines at the table, drinking martinis. What is the line he tells the server, Asaad?
He says, bring us 2 different martinis. I forget what the kind of martini it was. And he's like, then in 7.5 minutes, bring us another round. Then another round every 5 minutes after that until we pass the fuck out.
What a boss move. And the server's like, okay.
Okay. And Sarah, as a bartender, I wanted to ask you, what do you do then if someone says, keep giving them to me until we pass the fuck out? What do you do?
I mean, truly, if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, no. But if somebody handed me, you know, 500 or came and, you know, spent $500 or handed me a bunch of cash, I mean, listen, what are you going to do? You got to take it.
Okay, this segment is brought to you by Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Well, who said he's driving? They're in New York.
Oh, it's just a segment. We got to pay the bills.
They're always trying to make me look bad. Okay, so Matthew McConaughey comes in, crushes this role, and he is doing this, you know, he famously, I think everybody remembers, I feel like this is the scene of the movie. Is this the scene? Does this scene win the movie? The, like,
Yeah, I think, you know, iconically, I think some of the scenes in the sales floor are pretty iconic, you know, like the one behind you, but it goes to, like, this might be one of the best cameos in film ever.
It's so good. And he really is. We're not exaggerating. I mean, we should look at the runtime of how long he's in this film. Maybe like 2 minutes at the end of the day. But so he's doing this like beating his chest thing. And I was reading in his book, they were talking about how, or he was talking about how that's just what he like did to warm up. I forget exactly what the story was, but I think he had seen somebody doing it. And so he was like, yeah. And he was like trying to find the character and find the vibe and feel him or whatever. And they were like, oh, what are you doing? Do that, you know? But notably in this scene, so everybody sees Matthew McConaughey, right? And everyone's like, oh, he's such a good actor. He kills the scene. But you know who kind of I was looking at? It's like, what's that? They always say, like, when the bride's walking down the aisle and everybody stops to look at the bride, like, you should look at the groom and see what he's, you know, look at his face.
I haven't heard this.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Just like, you know, to see how, like, happy he is to see his beautiful wife to be.
Oh, usually they're crying. I'm like, what a bitch. Mm-hmm. Is that what you say, tough guy?
Okay, cool. Emotionally available is attractive. I'm just saying, you know, to a lot of women. So it's like that. I was watching Leo while Matthew was doing all this over the top stuff, and Leo was killing the scene, dude. Like he was just like, you could just see it in his eyes. He had like not a lot of lines. He just had not more than like 3 to 5 words in the scene, and he gave me so much. Like I could see from his face alone without any words that he wanted to be this man and also was terrified of this man and was also like exhilarated and confused at the same time. Like how cool to be able to convey that without speaking.
This is became my favorite style of acting. Like, and I appreciate you bringing it up and not to put too fine of a point on the scene because everyone knows how good this scene is, but it does take time to dissect how good it is. I've told you, Sarah, that like when you're sparring in MMA or boxing, like they call it mitt work, whoever's holding your pads, and whoever's holding your pads has to be good. And that's the limit of how good you can get in a workout. You know, if the guy's not good and doesn't know any pad work, then you can't practice how good you're shooting, right? And quote from our famous, one of our more famous Christmas movies, acting is reacting. Thanks, Vince Vaughn. But no, it's like that. It's like if in an acting scene as a partner, yeah, you might not have the cool scenes, but you got to give them good mitt work, right? Like you can keep them in it with your reactions and your face, and the more they believe you, are allowed to stay in that character. And Leonardo DiCaprio, and we talked about this with Daniel Kaluuya in Get Out, where it's like it's a close up on his face, so you can't do too much or else it's obvious. But Leo is the like giving you 4 different emotions with just eyes, mouth, and exactly like you say, Sarah, it's like he wants to be this guy. He definitely is hearing the most ridiculous shit he's ever heard from someone, but he wants the job, so he has to take it serious. He's being instructed on how many times to masturbate a day, and he has to take it serious.
He literally says to this guy, he goes, you jerk off? How often? Like, whoa!
No, you got to get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
He tells him, and then he says, like, if you do cocaine, your fingers will dial faster. He's like, you do cocaine, makes your fingers dial faster. You can make more calls.
And this is such an addict thing. Like people that are addicts, we shouldn't be making light of it, but they always have a thing they think it makes them do better, which it can be true, but mostly isn't. You know, like it doesn't make his fingers dial faster. You know, probably makes him more attentive. But the last thing I wanted to say about the scene, because it's so good, was usually me and Sarah are really big on the world that these movies develop. Every film, it's like, how good do you place us in the world? And this is the first film that I saw let one actor do it that was not the main actor. Matthew McConaughey places you in the world of Wolf of Wall Street in the first 15 minutes. And he doesn't do it with, and Scorsese doesn't do it with shots of people, shots of brokering, shots of deals being done. He just gives Matthew McConaughey the dialogue of what this life takes, what you are going to experience if you want to be inside of it, and now it's all on him. And I really dug that way of like building a world by just a cameo actor who's an Oscar award winner.
Yeah. Sorry.
You've been potting really fast today.
Stupid. No, I agree. And I think this movie, so I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, it's problematic as hell. There's like so many problematic things, but that's the world, right? So is that not okay? Like, are we allowed to tell stories where bad things happen and enjoy them? Or is it like, or is woke culture like, oh, we can't enjoy this because it's like disrespectful to so many like women, and there was like people with dwarfism being thrown at walls, and like everyone's being disrespected left and right. But it was this like crazy world. I mean, look at the what do you call that? The poster. It's just like it's nuts. And I think that's what we're supposed to feel, so that when he hits rock bottom, we feel that too.
Yeah.
You know, like how the mighty have fallen type of a thing.
I think it's a fair question, and I only bring it problematic because I was just so shocked of what was going on back then. And it's a good question that we will always have to face. I think we're getting a little bit more chilled out on woke culture, but there's a big separation of art and artist. But this is crazy shit to see on a film screen, but it's shit that happened. You know, so it's still honest. Now, here's the other thing I try not to do is like I try not to comment if I'm not one of the people or part of the demographic that's being offended in it, you know. But as just a moviegoer, and we try to keep it just movies on this pod, it's like, yeah, that was an honest depiction of what was going on at that time, and Martin Scorsese has given us an honest film about it, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so the beginning of this movie, he starts out on Wall Street, but he quickly gets fired from his job, correct?
Yes.
So he quickly gets fired from his job, and then he starts his own business selling penny stocks. And at first, he's like doing kind of well, and he starts ripping off like poor people, you know? And his wife plants a seed in his head, like, oh yeah, I can see you're doing this, and that's cool. She's like, I just wish you were ripping off rich people, then maybe it wouldn't feel as icky. And he's like, light bulb, I can make more money ripping off rich people. Brilliant.
Yes.
So then he starts his own company with Jonah Hill, who's borderline over the top, but somehow just perfect in this movie to me.
Yeah. If this was a more serious movie, Jonah Hill would look so out of place in this film. But because the film is so ridiculous, he nestles right in.
And that is something that I would say too, that we should give the director credit for, because I think, in my mind, and I could be wrong, but from what I understand, like, it's the director's job to make everything cohesive. I mean, the director has a lot of jobs, but it's his job or her job to make everything cohesive, and that includes the tone. So, like, the director has to see Leo's performance and then see, you know, Kyle Chandler's performance and Matthew McConaughey's performance and go, okay, yes, this is all going to work. Or, hey, bring it down, or hey, bring the energy up type of a thing. So that's always interesting to me, and I think that we should stop and tell him, great job on that, Marty.
Great job, Marty. Great job. Not that you need any more applause, but great job, Marty.
We do see certain films, you know, where you're like, geez, like, I mean, for instance, Killers of the Flower Moon, where you're like, dude, Brendan Fraser is not in the same movie as everyone else, and I blame that on the director. Like, who saw that and thought, like, no, that works.
Yeah, there's like trust you have to have as an actor, because
of course,
you know, Jonah Hill could have showed up on day 1 or day 300. You know, not that it would take 300 days, but like with big teeth, a Jewish afro, a like big bright T-shirt, and been like so expressive that he has to have the confidence or feel good enough about this performance that is the director's going to make it look okay. Yes. But there are so many directors that if you gave that performance, you look like an asshole in that film. You know, it's like you're standing next to Leonardo DiCaprio doing the most to try to get attention, to try to steal the scene. That's what it could have looked like. But Martin Scorsese did such a good job with the vision for this to make everything ridiculous that Jonah Hill just fit in so well. And
I would think that the average moviegoer, myself included, like, I would blame Jonah Hill.
Yeah, you definitely do. Like, whoever's doing it, you blame them, but but
you have to remember,
like
when you're making a film, everything's so collaborative. So it's like, if the wardrobe is bad, it's not the costume designer's fault fully, right? They were maybe answering to somebody else, and there's so many people, there's so many hands on these things, especially a film this size with, I mean, I'm sure an insane budget.
Yeah, I wanted to say, like, the thing about this film is, holy shit, is it casted well. And everybody wants to work with Martin Scorsese, so that makes sense, but in order of a film, like a lot of times I watch a film and I'm waiting for it to be bad because I see so many bad films, or I'm waiting for something that sticks out, which is probably a bad way to watch film. But rewatching Wolf of Wall Street, I meet Leo, fantastic. I meet Matthew McConaughey, I'm like, holy shit. Then I meet Spike Jonze, who's the new who's the new manager of this 2-bit stock center that Leonardo DiCaprio applies for after he gets fired. And then I meet John Bernthal. Then I meet Jonah Hill. And then I mean, you know, and it's like, holy shit, for the first like 25 minutes, you're introduced to just not only good actors, but good actors and casted so fucking well for these roles. The only thing that kind of bumps me is when they finally introduce Rob Reiner, his dad, and Rob Reiner doesn't fit in it to me. He's trying to do too much. But everyone else, I was just like, holy shit, man. Everyone is just, you got the right people to play the right person.
Well, I don't know if I missed it or if you missed it, but that brings me to my next point.
Yes.
Margot fucking Robbie.
Oh, is she in this movie?
Ladies and gentlemen. We meet Margot Robbie in this movie. I mean, that's where I met her, was in this movie. I was like, oh, who are you? She comes on the scene. I think she meets him at one of his parties, right? Like she meets him at one of the extravagant parties that they're throwing at his house. And he is, I mean, as any of us would be, just gobsmacked and taken with her right away, although he is married to his high school sweetheart. And they go on a date, like a full-blown date. And then they start making out, right? And she's like, aren't you married? And he's like, yeah, but like we could just like be friends.
How many times have you been hit with that line?
Yeah. And then she says to him, one of my favorite lines in the movie, we're not going to be friends.
Oh.
You're going to be my friend, Jordan.
Oh, I think we go to a close-up camera for that. Hit us with it again.
We're not going to be friends.
Oh, okay, Sarah. Okay,
you want to be my
Steven.
friend, Asaad?
This is a movie hack. We like to give out movie hacks when we're watching movies to ruin your guys' movie experience. When the main character is married to a brunette who's dressed sensibly, he's going to leave her for a blonde. Okay, back to you, Sarah.
That's terrible.
Most of the time, though, right?
He's just observing. He's not saying that, like, blondes are better than brunettes. I'm saying it. No, yes, that's that along with your other hack of if it's a mystery or a thriller and someone's died, the best actor in the film is more often than not the killer.
Yes, guys. Yes, because I have to make the turn. Yes.
Now, Asaad ruined all horror films for me in that way. He's like, because they have two roles to play. They have to pretend like they're nice, and then they have to play the killer.
Yeah. They wouldn't cast Keanu Reeves in Scream. I wasn't doing anything last weekend. Okay, go sorry.
So one of my favorite scenes of this movie, there are several, but this is one that I like very much remembered. So he's, Leo's just living it up. He's got this company. They're making all kinds of money. Like, I think he sells Steve Madden. They YPO, is that the word? I don't know.
IPO,
if that's the
yeah.
word. IPO? Mm-hmm. I didn't watch enough Succession. They get Steve Madden to go public with them. And so they end up making like $20 million or $20 billion in like 6 minutes, something crazy. And so they're just living it up. All of this debauchery is happening. And then we meet Kyle Chandler from Friday Night Lights playing the FBI guy in the brown suit that's ill-fitting that he has to come and ruin the party. Everyone was having such a great time. We were all making money, and then the FBI had to show up. But the scene I'm talking about is when Jordan Belfort's dad in the movie calls him and says, like, hey, you gotta chill, right? Like, you gotta chill. And he's like, just have him, I'm just going to invite him over. I'm just going to talk to him. And he's like, do not talk to them. He's like, okay, fine, I won't talk to them. And then he invites the next scene, of course, like he's invited them to his yacht, his like mega yacht. And the first thing he does, Asaad, when they come onto his boat, what does he do? Offers them women.
That's a good friend.
He's like, here, this is Jen and Tammy, and they're here for anything you may need. And he's trying to be like, I don't know, do you think that he was trying to be subtle about it, or do you think he was trying to be over the top about it, like with his hints and like acting nonchalant?
It's a great question. I think Leonardo DiCaprio in his world, he's like, everybody has a price tag, right? No matter what it is. It might be money or it might be not. And in this scene is a great example of Leonardo DiCaprio not spending any time outside of his world. He thinks everyone can be bought. And for the most part, he's right.
Yeah.
And in this scene, he's definitely offering these women to him. Yes. But he knows, like 10% of him knows that he can't do it outright because he can get in trouble for it. But he's like, this guy's going to say yes. He's a dude.
So he thinks he's being slick.
Oh, yes. This guy's hopped up on all the drugs in the world. And there's nothing in Jordan Belfort's mind that he can't do. They're saying to stay away from this FBI agent. And it's Jordan Belfort's idea to invite him on a yacht. And the first thing he says is, I got to expand the roof of the yacht so I can fit my chopper on there, and then offers them prostitutes,
Yikes. I've never done cocaine, but I
fucking nerd.
But I have heard that it makes you feel like you're the coolest person in the room. And for me, having never done it, like I have been around people who have done it, it to me that was such an accurate feeling description. Like, have you ever been around someone who's on coke and you're just like, they just think they're so cool and so smart, and they're like, oh yeah, hey babe, and you're just like, dude, what are you doing? You're not cool. You just seem insane. So that makes a lot of sense. The choice that they had him like bring the FBI guys on the boat. And then he sees them kind of in these schlubby pants, and he's like, I got this. And then he like straight up bribes them. They decline, and he gets pissed that they've declined his offer and throws lobsters at them as they're leaving. And
as he kicks them off.
As he kicks them off of his boat, and he throws like big lobsters at them that he was gonna, presumably he was like, oh, I'll show him a good time. We'll have some lobsters, some chicks, like maybe, pay him off. Like, oh, and he says, what were you saying? He says something like,
well, this is my second favorite scene of the film. And if it wasn't for, and it's not the Matthew McConaughey one, but it's similar to Matthew McConaughey, what Leonardo DiCaprio was doing, that reacting with his face. He's bribing Kyle Chandler, but he's writing the line of like, I don't want this to be an outright bribe. Mm-hmm. So one of his friends, supposedly, Jordan Belfort's friends, needed help with his stock. He made him $500,000. And he's saying that to Kyle Chandler's character, like, I can do that for anybody. And here's the cool decision that Leonardo DiCaprio is making with just his face, because it's a close-up. If I looked at you directly and was like, I can do that for anybody, that's an offer, That's a bribe. Mm-hmm. But he says, yeah, I do that all the time. I can do that for anybody. And looks away.
Just being casual.
It's not an offer, but it's definitely an offer, but the FBI agent can't put him on the hook for being like, did you just bribe me? Even though he does,
Oh, it's so good.
It's a great decision.
So now he's like fully made an enemy, right?
Yes.
Like he already was on their radar, which is you never want to be on the FBI's radar. I don't trust me from experience.
What?
I'm not allowed to talk about ongoing cases. But I am wearing a wire. Should I slip you a note? Yeah. I'm wearing a wire. Oh, that's what happens in this movie. Spoiler alert. He wears a wire. I don't want to skip around too much, but that whole scene's a little crazy too.
Yeah.
So after he bribes the FBI unsuccessfully, what happens next?
Well, they advise Jordan. He has a crazy night out of Quaaludes, and the FBI taps his phone line, and Jonah Hill's at his house. And this is the iconic scene of Leonardo DiCaprio trying to drive his Ferrari, I don't know the car, back home while he's on Quaaludes. And Jonah Hill is talking to their offshore accountant who's hiding their money they've made from their business about illegal transactions. And Jordan Belfort knows that the FBI's tapped into that conversation, so he's racing home to get Jonah Hill off the phone. Which is like, that scene probably lasts a little too long for me. It's too much mayhem, which is probably what Martin Scorsese's going for. But do you have any comments on that scene, or else I'll just motor forward?
I have one comment.
Go ahead, please.
I thought it was so funny. This is like classically what I do. When they take Jonah Hill rushes over and he says like, I found these pills they don't make anymore. Like I bought them from some guy. They're like from the 60s or something. They're really old. So they take one and they like wait, and they're just like, they're all excited to get this, whatever they're gonna feel. And they're like checking their phones, checking their watches, not their phones, checking their watches, and then they're like, oh, those ones must have been a dud. Let's take another one.
Guys, this is Sarah's brand.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. This never happened, but allegedly, there's been multiple occasions where Sarah will experiment with something.
Multiple?
And 7 minutes later, she's like, it's not working. We should double up. And I'm like, it's been 7 minutes. And she's like, are you sure it's not 70? Sarah, well, she doesn't drink often, but she'll drink something, and while the alcohol's in her mouth, she'll gurgle, this isn't hit it yet. It's like, she's a very patient person, but when it comes to feeling the effects of something, not very patient. Allegedly. Any mind-altering substances, allegedly. Molly.
Allegedly, I have a great story about that, and if you want to hear it, allegedly, slide into my DMs and I'll tell you. Yes, okay, keep motoring on. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop you there. So I did like that scene though a lot, where they're like, he can't even speak on the phone because he's so fucked up from these pills that he like can't form the words. So then he thinks, brilliant idea, I'll get over there myself. I'll physically drive myself. I can't speak, but I can drive myself to the house and pull the phone out of the wall.
Yes. And then you get this scene of like Jonah Hill, he decides to eat and chokes, and then, Leonardo DiCaprio has to kind of save him. Next morning, the FBI comes and sees his car didn't make it, although Leonardo DiCaprio thought his car was unscathed, but he hit a million things, which was a cool decision in the movie to make it feel like he got home safely when really he did not. And he gets pinched by the FBI on some drunk driving things, and so Rob Reiner, his dad's like, we gotta fucking chill. I'm sorry, Jon Favreau. Mm-hmm. I was like, you gotta chill, man. Let's just face a couple of fines with the illegal dealings you've been doing with Stratton and Oakmont, or whatever the hell the thing's called. And to which Leonardo DiCaprio realizes he has to step down.
And this is another great scene. And I think it could be this scene here, but he goes back and he's ready. He's like, he's all sad and he's got to go back to the floor of his trading, his company. And he goes in and tell me if you guys remember this. So he goes in and he's ready to make his speech saying that he's going to quit. And then he's going to, he loved these people like family for so many years. And they all are like screaming his name and cheering him on. And it's too much for him. He can't leave because he needs that love and that adoration so much that he says, I'm not fucking leaving. So he decides all he has to do is just step away. And like his company can be okay. He can keep his money. They can continue to make money. But he can't do it because his ego is too fucking big. Would a lady ever do that? No. Only a man. Oh, wait, what's the girl from the Blood Lady? She might have done it.
Oh, yeah. Here's my favorite scene in the movie, Sarah. So third favorite was Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
Second was Leonardo DiCaprio on that boat, reacting, not acting. And then the first one is like for 2.5 hours, 2 hours at this point. I'll tell you, and we talked about it with The Killer with David Fincher, like my best filmmakers, directors are manipulative. I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge has talked about this. She's like, I like to make people laugh because then I have them in the palm of my hands and I can make them cry next, And I was manipulated at this point where Jordan Belfort is resigning. Because before that, he has a conversation, because for 2 hours, everything we're seeing in Wolf of Wall Street is just proof of why Jordan Belfort is an asshole that's out of control. And then Martin Scorsese makes this cool decision to show you a human behind it. And we're already decided as viewers that he's an asshole. We like to see what's going to happen to Jordan Belfort because he has it coming. And we like the debauchery too. But then he adds this tick about Jordan Belfort hiring someone, a single mom who didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, he said. And now she goes on vacations to the Bahamas all the time. And when she first got hired, she asked for an advance of $5,000. And Jordan Belfort, in that speech, is like, hey, what did I do? And she's like, you wrote me a check for $25,000. And randomly, me laughing and engaging in this whole movie for 2 hours, I never got sad in it. I was like, oh man, this scene is really fucking effective. We always get to see how bad this person is. And yeah, he deserves what's coming. But we like to qualify people as something. And we don't like to give them credit for the other things they do. And I'm like, oh, Jordan Belfort made this woman's life and her kid's life. And it's this really effective scene that gives Jordan Belfort enough ammunition to be like, you know what? I'm not fucking leaving. Because look how good I am to people, Yeah. But in the moment, I'm like, man, this scene was the most effective thing for me. And I thought both actors did a phenomenal job in it and was really surprised that the tone switch worked.
Yeah, it did. No, I totally agree. That's really interesting. And this is like the same man who's like shaving women's heads in their offices and like giving them $10,000 to do it.
Yeah. And this is most men, well, women and men, this is most people. They have their worst moments and we like to think they're just that and they're not,
So after he decides to stay, he gets arrested by the FBI and then he decides for a lighter sentence, he says that he'll wear a wire around Jonah Hill. But because he really feels like Jonah Hill's his brother and he doesn't want to send him up the river, this is what I was talking about earlier, he takes a note at the diner and he writes on a piece of paper, like, I'm wearing a wire, don't say anything. And he slides it over to him and he's like, But Jonah Hill, like, starts freaking out and he's not cool about it. And so they immediately, like, come in, they find the note, and then Jordan goes to prison. So Jordan goes to prison, his wife leaves him, he loses everything. What does he do when he gets out of prison, Asaad?
You say.
Starts selling himself. He goes on tours and he's teaching people. He's giving motivational speeches and teaching people how to grow their business. So he's just doing it all fucking over again. A leopard can't change their spots, is what they say. So I thought that was really funny. And I'm assuming that's really what happened in real life, but fucking perfect. Of course you did that. Of course he couldn't just like come back out and be like, I'll be normal. Like people just have delusions of grandeur and, I guess this guy really, really bought into it.
Another great reacting scene by Jonah Hill when he's having to do a couple complicated things in that scene where he reads the note, he knows they're busted. He's got to think about this whole run is over now. And he's still having a normal conversation because the FBI is listening to them. He's asking him about his wife, and it's really cool what Jonah Hill is doing in that. He got paid, this is random.
Yeah.
He only got paid $60,000 for this role.
That makes sense. I remember hearing that he really wanted, and so smart on his part, like take less money. I don't know how much, that sounds like a lot of money to me for anybody. So I'm like, 60,000, but I don't know what he normally gets. But this was that breakout role that was like, I can do other stuff than just, that's not just super bad for him.
What do you think Leo made on this? I have the number.
Ooh, gosh, I wouldn't have any idea, but if you said 60K is low, I will say 200K?
Up front, they don't know what he made on the back end.
Oh, fuck.
At least Hollywood Reporter doesn't. Up front, he made $25 million.
$25 million?
Yeah.
And then he definitely has points on the back end. God, I really don't know anything about how much actors get paid as one. That's not really my quote yet. I'm not getting 25 mil. That's insane. So what was your, I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know if you have it. What was your rose from this film? What was your favorite part?
Yeah. I kind of touched on it with that one scene. But
which one?
The female employee that was talking to Jordan.
Okay.
But here's my rose to not ruin it. If you need a new rose, all of the acting and all of the casting is stellar, and the job should be done. They nailed it. And then Kyle Chandler comes off the top rope, and gives you this schlubby FBI guy that I'm like, oh, this is the one character that doesn't fit the film, but he nails it. Mm-hmm. He's the only person that represents the audience. He represents the everyday person watching this, which is like, he's so schlubby, you buy the fact that he would want to take a billionaire down, you know? But he doesn't need to turn in a good performance in this, and he doesn't need to be as earnest as he is, because the movie's already in good hands. And for some reason, I really appreciated his performance because he was so good at being normal in a movie where nobody was, you know?
That's a really good point. He works for me. People really like him, and I think I do too. I never saw his big, I forget whatever one that...
Friday Night Lights.
Oh, Friday Night Lights. That made everybody really fall in love with him. But he's been in so many things. There was a show called Early Edition.
Yes.
Do you remember this? So I might have even talked about it on this pod in another Kyle Chandler movie, but he gets the paper a day before anyone else.
So good.
And then he had to like go and try and stop whatever disaster was going to happen. So
great premise.
And he's just a great, solid actor. He's got the perfect look for this movie, like you said, and they dressed him perfectly, and he just had that perfect like likability enough that you could believe that someone like Leo would be like, oh yeah, come on, dude, we can be peers, you know, and then just like totally nail him.
What's your rose?
My rose is the scene that you said you think takes a little too long. It's after they've taken the Quaaludes, and I do not condone drunk driving or driving under any kind of influence. I just thought it was so funny. I remember the first time it being so shocking and it working so well, how they do the like, and I drove home perfectly like a saint, didn't hit anything, can you believe it? And then the next morning, you know, you hit several things, like when the cops are at his door, like you've ruined like many cars and left destruction from the country club to your house. And I just thought that was so funny. And like watching him like try and physically, like the physical comedy of him trying to get down the stairs when he couldn't move is just like, that all works for me. And I think it's so fun and funny to watch. My Thorn, if you can't guess it, was watching this movie with my dad.
Yeah.
Love you, Dad. I love you, Dad. But still, maybe we stick to the PG-13s.
Yeah.
Hey, look at me. I'm Leo.
Yeah. I watched Two Girls in One Cup with my uncle.
Which one?
The prequel. Which uncle?
Which uncle? What's your Thorn? What's your Thorn?
My Thorn is Rob Reiner, man. I just like, there's so many options for old cranky white men. They got the only old white man that's like kind of warm-hearted and nice in all of his films. I just didn't think it worked at any point, you know? But yeah, I just thought there was a lot of options to get an old white guy that's cranky. I don't think Rob Reiner looked like he was dialing it up and wasn't really his movie.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. You know, there's a quick personal anecdote. I used to spend a lot of time at my aunt and uncle's house, like when I was growing up, just like, you know, go over to hang out with my cousins and stuff. And my parents would call to check on me, but they would always call after like 5 p.m. And my uncle would get so mad that the phone was ringing. Who's calling us at this hour? I'm like, it's 5 p.m., dude. But he would get so mad, and I would get so embarrassed. But I bring that up because there's a scene in this film where someone's calling Leo's dad, Rob Reiner, and he's like, it's Tuesday. Who's calling me on a Tuesday? And he got so mad that the phone was ringing. And I loved that little bit of real life that they infused for absolutely no reason, but I could totally relate to. So I was like, oh my God, that's a thing people do. That's hilarious. I'm going to give you my Gummy rating for this. Mm-hmm. My Gummy rating could be for this movie anywhere from 0 to 5 because it's just a fun, fast-paced, high-energy movie. So I think if you took 5 gummies, you'd be having the best time of your life. But I will give this 1 gummy, not that you need it, but it would be it's a fun movie. So I think it'd be fun to have a gummy and watch it. But honestly, 0 gummies would be fine as well. I really like this movie. It's always a good time. And I'm glad that we chose it to rewatch. And I'm a little nervous because we have to decide if this is going to hit our classics list.
Yeah, we did. We came up with this theme after doing Get Out because you guys really liked us
Yeah.
rewatching Get Out. We didn't qualify if Get Out was a classic or not. So let's go backtrack really quick.
Okay.
Is Get Out a classic? 3, 2, 1,
No.
Okay, so we agree. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Are you ready to judge Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Is Wolf of Wall Street a classic on the DTF podcast, Sarah? 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Yay!
Fuck yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
it
I
is,
wasn't
yeah.
sure you liked this movie.
Okay, we're going to build a vault, guys, if you keep watching, of our classic films. And at some point, we're going to create a limit, like maybe 20 or 30. And when a new movie comes out, or an old classic, we have to rewatch again. We might have to kick an old one out. But yeah, we're going to pride ourselves in this classic categories because you guys seem to like rewatching the old movies.
Okay, so the first movie officially that's made our classics list is Wolf of Wall Street. It's streaming, I think you said Netflix?
Yeah, I watched it on Netflix under your account.
I'm going to change my password as soon as I get home.
Love is a really popular password. You should think about changing that. At least add a special character. Me,
It's
I'm
this.
a special character.
It's this.
Yeah.
Can you put emojis in your password?
Yeah, it's a great idea, though. It's a good idea.
Thank you guys for watching, and thank you for listening. Again, thank you to our subscribers on Patreon or YouTube members. Please go on and subscribe. You'll get bonus content from us and a lot of our other things that we've got going on our Last Second See page. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye.